always an exciting day. We started with this group since August, and we absolutely have gotten better over the break. We've come back better, and excited to get on the field today and have 3 weeks before the start of our season. So it's been an amazing group. I know in the fall this group had the best academic semester of our tenure here since we've been at Auburn, and they've just handled themselves great. 21 new players, and they've absolutely seemed to acclimate and seem to be getting along well. So it feels like we have a good ethos, and we got a new pitching coach in Everett Tieford that's joining us, which I'm super excited about. And you saw the addition recently of a sports science position, Adam Niebaum, Niebel, and he told me it was like knee bowl. So Adam Niebel joins us. He's a PhD candidate in kinesiology. Just that's what Everett's really done for us, has helped us create some of this new technology with the Kinetracks that we put in the stadium last spring to get that up and running. And we also have the addition of 21 students that maybe you wouldn't know about from engineering department. We're putting them in different silos to help us with pitch design, maybe pitch efficiencies versus an opponent, shifting, all these different things of baseball. To have 21 of our regular Auburn students to be part of our team this year is the first time and something I'm excited about. But, we think we have some roles defined with our team, either pitching, hitting, defense. But it'll be neat since we hadn't been on this field in a few months to get back out there and really crystallize, how we're going to start this season and who's going to play where.
Yes, Butch, I thought I saw the number was like something like 80% of your innings from last year are back, and I'm sure that's a great thing to have. But just what are kind of the things that you're really looking for out of this pitching staff as you guys start to get really ramped up for the year?
Yeah, just the experience. I think the elephant in the room, and we haven't talked much about it, was just Joseph Gonzalez being restored. This first day of practice, him and Alsop, you think they have a chance to be two of these anchors for this pitching staff. Seeing them today is huge, and just continuing to see Joseph get stronger. We held him to the fall, but he's been throwing for quite a while, so he's probably ahead or more advanced than some of our pitchers with arm shape, even though he's coming off the injury and off of last year. So seeing him continue to ramp up, see Alsop, seems like he's in that third year, that growth of where you see somebody really take off. You want that to happen for him. When you say 80% of your innings back, we didn't have that last year, and when you have 80% of the innings back, at least you have enough guys that know what's going on, and they have enough awareness, and they've been through enough fires, so there's some strength to that. But it's also the addition, of a couple of people. Cam Tilley comes to mind as a freshman that we think we have high hopes for and has a chance to pitch now. Dylan Watts is a junior college guy. We think there's some new pieces. Carson Myers comes from UAB after starting for 2 years in college baseball that could do some great things in others. And then, back to that 80%, even a Christian Herberholtz, a guy that had a chance to go out and play and start his professional career, to come back for another year and be one of those older guys in the room. You feel like you have the makings of a really good, rotation, a very good college rotation, and then some of these pieces I talked about, and a Will Cannon, and it doesn't take long till you start figuring out that there's some depth and pieces there. So I'm excited about it, but at the same time, can these guys take a step? Tanner Bauman fall in that category. Guy was a first-year player, him and Cannon, in this second year. Now that they've been through it a year, do they have a lower resting heart rate? Can they pick up one or two skills, and instead of going through a year learning all these things, they have that under their belt, and can they apply that early and lead us this season?
Which is a pitching guy, how much does it change maybe your mindset or your heart rate going into a season when you have so many guys that you look down and go, yeah, that guy's been in that fire before, from a pitching standpoint?
Yeah, cautiously, right? Because we've been in every position before, and guys have always stepped up and exceeded expectations. Or your tougher years is when you just don't have enough experience through a couple of injuries. So I think every pitching coach, regardless of what level you're at, is kind of always cautiously optimistic, and that's where we find ourselves, because the ramp-up's important. But there is a lot of trust. There's just a lot of good words being spread in the room and a lot of experience with that. Tanner Bauman, who is just one of our most trustworthy players in our program, sitting there anchoring and leading the bullpen to get them to keep paying attention and things like that. And all that stuff is is powerful and meaningful, and the stuff you can't really see in a stat sheet, so to speak. So I think those intangibles are there for us.
You talk about 80% of your innings coming back. How hard is it to find your freshmen and find a spot for them in that situation? Do you find a role they can do, or do you look for certain moments where that player can be successful?
Yeah, you don't want to force the game. That never works. And, we're trying to be committed to every pitch that crosses that plate to put our best foot forward. So, that's what the fall is huge for, to development and see. I mentioned Cam Tilley and Dylan Watts as first-year players, to where I think they've absolutely have enough skill to help us to make the best version of our pitching staff. So you would think that they would get some opportunities. Carson Myers can do something in the middle with all that experience he has, but maybe in an SEC pitching staff, he might eventually wind up being a starter for us. Who knows? But right now you feel like he's the guy that come in the middle and roll you 2 or 3 innings, or flip that lineup one time that's so powerful. Maybe give some help to, a Bauman and an Armstrong, where you can set them up in shorter, later pieces if somebody can do a good job rolling. I think my job and Everett's job, and I throw Scott Foxhall in there with so much experience as a pitching coach, I think our jobs right now is for everybody to have a role. Even if they're not getting the innings maybe they want to, but you're beginning a career, I think when everybody's got a role, it keeps them engaged more. And so I don't want just 3 or 4 guys to have a role defined. I want every person on our staff to have a role, and we have about 8 of them, so everybody's got a chance. Let's say your command's not where you want it to be as a young player, but you have a wipeout slider, then you're a wipeout guy. So maybe we can bring you in with a guy at second, nobody on, and you can throw that wipeout slider and maybe strike a guy out. Worst case scenario, you walk a guy, which is not the worst thing that could happen in that scenario. So whether you're a roller and not getting enough swing and miss, or you're a wipeout guy and have some, I just think everybody having a role, it allows you to work to something in precision that has an identity attached to it. And I want every player, regardless of where they're at, because sometimes it's your time, sometimes it's my time, sometimes we're all at different stages when you start talking about 20-plus pitchers. So, but I think key is for everybody to have a role on this staff, regardless of maybe the innings they're getting the first 3 weeks to the month of the season.
But you lose Cole, Bryson, those guys. Talk about what you've seen from Cooper Weiss, Derek Fabian, Javi, some of these newcomer guys that have that experience, and what you expect out of them.
Yeah, I don't think we've made light of that. 80% is something positive. But you look around this league, now more than ever the last 2 years, these rosters are better than they've ever been. And I feel like I can say that. This is year 23 consecutively in the Southeastern Conference, and I know what it looked like 22 years ago. I know what it looks like now, and I even know what the complexion looks like it's changed in the last year to 2 years. It's incredible. So I feel great that that's a positive statement we can make, but our league is better than it's ever been. Again, just like we had with Casey Mize 1-1, you had a 1-1 last year in this league. And so that's the level of where you've got to absolutely find yourself competing against. And we've made no bones about it. I thought the biggest challenge for last year's team, and now you got a new one going into this year, is replacing a third-rounder at shortstop, a switch hitter that could get you in big moments and dominated the routine play. A third baseman, all he did was hit the most home runs in a single season history of our program. Was a great story. A defensive replacement on an Omaha team in the outfield winds up playing a good third base and wind up doing something amazing like that. We need somebody to do that again. And I have to throw Nate LaRue in there as a third piece of, like, we're sitting here at 5-10 in this league last year and had the big conversation about staying to fight. And one of our biggest moves was to, all right, Nate LaRue's going to catch every game the rest of the way. And you go 12-3 that second half, and he's a huge, huge piece of solidifying us doing that. So to me, those are 3 huge pieces that we need to figure out. Weiss is a guy that played Division I baseball, Miami of Ohio, with two errors in a season, double-digit home runs. He can steal a base. We feel like we've seen that. So that's a guy that gets a crack there. Caden Green's a returner that really started a lot at second for us last year. I believe in Caden just because I know the kind of person that he is and broad enough skill. And he's been on our field, and he's played in SEC ball games. That's huge. I think Derek Fabian was huge for us coming in. because of that experience, his track record. He's played great. Could he play second? Could he play third? Feels like Weiss is going to get a chance to play short now from Coach Nunemaker. Does a great job with those guys, but Fabian's still taking reps every day there, but is it second or third? Javon Hernandez from Jacksonville State, all he had to do was hit 390 last year in Division I baseball, but we think he could play second or third. What I think is powerful for us in the four guys that I mentioned so far is I think in a crunch, because you don't know what happens with health on a pitching staff, infield, all four of those guys could play second, short, or third. So I do think that's the strength of what we have going right now. But putting those guys in the right spot. There's a few others. You got a Gavin Miller that was in the program last year that had a tough time getting on the field, and he was a super touted guy coming in. But when Bryson Ware took off, that became tough for him as a young player. So he's getting a fight at third base every single day. Caleb Freeman is a junior college guy, comes in. We really like the potential electricity and power in his bat as a guy. Needs to keep working and get better defensively probably, and has worked at catcher as well. That's huge for us. So I'm starting to say 5, 6 guys and maybe even a couple more fighting for those positions. But right now I think heading into and see what these 3 weeks give us, a Weiss, a Fabian, a Green, Hernandez, those are guys that I really want them to solidify an opportunity on the infield to try to replace those 2 huge spots. And then behind the plate, Ike Irish, he's very well thought of in the draft probably for next year, depending on who you talk to. We don't need that to know that he's a special player. So I think all he did as a freshman was break our doubles record or something offensively. Can he catch for us? Does that get our most bats in the lineup? But we still want to defend these 3 acres the best we can. We want to do this with pitching, dominate the routine play, and timely hitting like always will never change. But can Ike hold that down? Carter Wright is a senior, came from Iowa Western, a senior leader, blocks everything, as a team player. And then Cale Strickland's a freshman that we're super excited about. All he's got is catching lineage in him from birth with his dad, Scott Strickland, who was the head coach at Georgia, a great friend and one of the best catching guys around. And Cale has done nothing but be a sponge his entire life. And he can receive at an elite level and do a lot of things. Throw. All 3 of these guys can catch and throw. And so hopefully we can do the best job we can of kind of replacing what Nate LaRue and those two left side infielders did for us last year.
A lot of heavy equipment around the ballpark, and it's been that way since last fall. And I know that's coming in phases, but wanted to ask you specifically about the Hall of Fame Club with tickets, space going on sale, and that space coming to life. Your thoughts on that and what you can do for the program.
Oh, I think it's just going to be this Hall of Fame Club is going to give us a hint of what's to come, but I think it's great. That'll be done for this season, and then we've done some stuff in right center field for our students. So we've got them, instead of just creating a hole, now we've got them up off the ground, and we got them close to that visitor's bullpen. So we're going to create a little more atmosphere there. But this Hall of Fame Club is going to make us even more excited for the club level down the line, and the drink rails and the seating above the monster. It's going to give a feel of us being able to take in Auburn baseball differently than we ever have before. And it probably catches us up not only with our peers, but also all I care about is less about our peers and more about our people, our Auburn family, and how they're digesting basketball in a unique premium way now and football forever. I think this gets us caught up with our people that desire those spaces and love those spaces. And, man, when you get to set 39 feet behind home plate and see this special talent of this league and see these guys play up close and personal, and then you absolutely can walk right through a corridor there and get to basically 3,000 square foot of, banquet space for you, and to be right there and get a private entrance to the ballpark. I think we've had a beautiful ballpark. I'm so glad we didn't start over, that we added to a beautiful, traditional, time-standing facility, and we're adding these pieces that are absolutely, I think, we can tell it. When something goes on sale, it's been like hotcakes. I'm thankful. And I think with the drive of our season tickets to do it 4 years in a row and to continue to sell more each and every year, and the construction, even though we'll be under construction all year, I don't see that as a negative. I see that as a positive for us. But our people are wanting to take this in, and I think I bring up the season ticket sales because I think it's meshing at the right time. So maybe this would have happened as soon as we got here. It wouldn't be the same effect. But by our growth and interest of the Auburn family wanting to come see more baseball and this building happening at the same time, it seems like it's just perfect timing. So I'm excited about that.
Yes, Butch. How have Coach Foxhall and Coach Teef sort of fit into your staff? And what are they able to do that maybe take some stuff off your plate and let you prioritize other things that are important to you?
Yeah, I'm just fortunate. Well, the first thing Everett does is he fills in some gaps of where I lack, and that would just be with the technology. I thought in 2011 I was with the program and a pitching coach, and we were gifted one of the first 8 TrackMan technologies in college baseball, and I thought we were out ahead. And you're almost, there was a certain amount of pride of being ahead of these numbers and getting a good feel for that. And, a few years later, starting to play head coach, and after a few years of that, like, the technology never stopped, and it just kept on iteration after iteration. KineTrack seems to be like that next step, this markerless camera system of being able to do stuff that we could only do in a bullpen way back when Dr. Andrews had the American Sports Medicine Institute up in Birmingham. And now it goes from a bullpen setting from 28 years ago, seeing it, to now you can absolutely do it with a game swing or a game pitch, and it be markerless is absolutely unbelievable. So honestly, I think I got dated in that process, and what Everett does is allow us to, that's the guy that was running an entire minor league pitching organization of 100 pitchers a year, trying to get them to the big leagues. So he was forced to be in that space. So, we've had 14 major league pitchers the last 9 years, and I don't think that would happen again if we don't continue to keep up with the technology. So Everett's here for that reason. The guys love him. He's also, he's got a good chip on his shoulder too, because he had to fight his whole life all the way to pitching in the big leagues and being a minor league pitching coordinator and playing in college. And so he's a fighter. So the guys love him for that. But he adds this piece of technology. Scott Foxhall brings you somebody that can help him with game management in the day-to-day, because he's been a great college pitching coach. A guy that's been, it was a 2021, for goodness sake, he was the National Assistant Coach of the Year in college baseball. So he has a plethora of experience that when Everett and I'm running around and trying to play head coach all the time, you have somebody with that experience that is actually sharing an office with you now with all this construction going on. They're forced to look at each other every day. So he has a sounding board right there of all that experience. So I was with Clint Hurdle a few weeks ago speaking. I was in Greenville, Illinois, in a little high school auditorium, and he said something great, because we need to really stop fighting over old school, new school. And he said, hey, man, it don't matter if you're old school or you're new school. Just make sure you're in school. So we have all the features in our room now, and we're just making sure we're in school and trying to be out front to, hey, the goal is continue to develop your players. I don't care what new age we're in. That's always going to be a pursuit. And I think with Everett's current way that he can absolutely do this and what he's been exposed to, Scott Foxhall has done an amazing job. And then, hey, I'm always going to throw my 2 cents worth, because I've absolutely loved pitching my whole life. But those guys have taken, as you would expect, an amazing amount off my plate. But I know every head coach does it different. I love pitching. I'm passionate about it. And I would say I'm learning at a high rate right now. And I love that piece where I'm still learning some of this stuff. I'm highly interested.
Just kind of on the note of Gonzo and getting him ramped up, I guess obviously it's a different process for him, I'm sure, than years past, but just how different has that been, and really how have you seen him handle it?
Yeah. I don't know. You don't throw numbers around, but, what if he turned down, $500,000 to come back, how much does he believe in himself and Auburn? And then what is my response to that? Then I want every resource and everything that he deserves our best. If something like that happened, for him to be able to come back. And this is right now, you never know. I think he's going to be really, really healthy. I think he's going to be healthier than he's been in a long time, with some of these things nagging since high school in the same spot. So I think he's healthier than he's been in a long time, but we'll, like I said, cautiously bring him along. But his body never looked better. He's absolutely worked his body in a better place. So that adds value to him. there's a look in his eye like I've never seen before. And so I gravitate to him. That's exciting to me to see, like that light switch go on. To see him hungry is pretty exciting. Our biggest challenge, and it may be a challenge, is that he's throwing noticeably harder. And what he's doing, his calling card of identity was a true sinker. And it feels like the industry may be working back to that a little bit, where that can play more than maybe it did when we played all this vertical stuff and get after it. But it's not sinking as much, and he's throwing a lot harder. And today is going to be a good glimpse. I'm really looking forward to seeing his third time to hitters to see if that's going to cause him challenges. Is the ball going to be elevated more, not sink as much because he's throwing harder? Is this a new identity? Will he settle back and it starts sinking again with the more pitches that he throws? Or is he going to be in an identity crisis? I would say that's honestly the first thing I'm looking at now, because he's come back healthier. But it doesn't look like it's sinking as much from what we can see optically and what we can absolutely see analytically with some printouts and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see, because at the end of the day, the hitter tells you a lot. And at 3 o'clock today, the hitter's going to start giving us some immediate feedback on where he's at. So I'm excited about him. I'm excited where he's at. But right now, those are the things that we need to tweak and look at to see if this is great, concerning. Have we got away from identity? Do we get back to it? Or are we marching toward a potential new identity? And that's kind of the biggest thing with Joseph right now.
One of the big common themes the last few years has been the veteran leadership in the dugout. And with guys like a Case and Howell leaving, like a Nate LaRue leaving, a Cole Foster, who's kind of stepped up in the dugout, in the clubhouse, and really taken a vocal leadership position on this team?
Yeah. You know, we do the legacy thing. That's our captain, so that's how we do that. And we have the players elect that. And we do that at the end of the fall after we all have put our best foot forward every day. And so I think that's a great time to do it. You know, this year's guys, just our legacy guys, are Bobby Pierce, who's continued to stay with our program. He has to lead. He has the voice of everybody because of what he's done and how he works and represents himself. Tanner Bauman. And then Joseph was picked by his peers, and I always like, that's the quiet guy. But we're not in that locker room, you know, who those players who they really respect. And then Cooper McMurray. I'm excited about Cooper. He had a really quietly strong, big year that if he was gone, we would be calling that, what a huge piece we're missing at first. But he's back. And he seems more comfortable in his second year. You know, sometimes a guy comes in, he's like, well, it's my first year. I'm not just going to take over even if I'm older or transferred. And now Cooper seems really comfortable and did a good job. I do have to point out that we do one question that I've done every year, and I'll probably do it the rest of my career, on character, integrity, trustworthiness, just 1 to 5. Give everybody a deal. And we've had some amazing guys here. You go back to Keegan Thompson, Casey Mize, Tanner Burns, Ryan Bliss. I mean, just amazing, consistent young men every day because they were raised well. But nobody's ever scored 5 out of 5, a perfect 5 from everybody in the organization. And Tanner Bauman did that. And I'm like, what did you do? You would figure through the fall, at least you'd make one guy mad a day or have one bad day at practice or somebody turn on you. And I didn't think it was possible to ever get that score to where everybody in the organization gave you a perfect 5. And that happened for Tanner Bauman. So I think when you look at our team and you look at the ebb and flow and the rhythm of our team, I think you have to look at Tanner Bauman. Even, you know, Blake Burkhalter was pretty important. He threw out of the bullpen a couple of years ago as a second rounder, and we probably don't go to Omaha in 22 without what Burkhalter did coming in. So Bauman's going to be one of those pieces. I'm not putting pressure on him on the field, but I know he has a huge say with this ball club. And then you can't ignore like an Ike Irish and a Chris Stanfield, because Chris Stanfield just does the right thing every day and comes to work every day. And you think those are some of your better players, and Ike's just a special talent. So those guys have the ear of the ball club. That gives you 6 right there, and I think there's more, like a Herbert Holtz and et cetera, of guys that have good experience and heart's in the right place. But this is about as deep of a pitching staff, and it's about as deep a leadership as I think I can ever remember having, of where it's quality. So, you know, does that rise up to the level of our peers, you know, to allow you to be competitive with them? we'll have to wait and see when we get out there. But the depth of character on this team is pretty deep, and Tanner Bauman's a huge piece of that.
All right, thanks everybody.
Yeah. Good to see everybody. Hope Bruce gets there.